Today in math class we're going to continue our study and our mastery of two-step equations by taking a look at the practice on IXL. We're in the 8th grade section on W.8 solving two-step equations. Make sure that you're logged in before you start practicing. So when you get into this, you're going to see the problem here. It says solve for h, which is basically the same language to say we're solving for the variable s and we want to get that variable by itself. You're probably saying to yourself, well, how do you get a variable by itself? When there's other operations that are going on in the sentence, you do the opposite or inverse operation to remove those numbers to get that variable by itself. And we learned yesterday that you remove those numbers in the side of the expression with the variable by working in reverse order. So instead of following order of operations, you're actually going the opposite direction and doing addition and subtraction first, then multiplication and division. If I click on this tab here, learn with an example, it drops down what is you're exactly supposed to do. So let's take a look. In this first example, you've got 4 plus 2u equals 6. So you've got addition and multiplication that's happening in this expression. The inverse of those obviously would be subtraction and division. Now which one of those do you do first? Well, with addition being the least or the last in our regular order of operations, it becomes first in our reverse order. So I subtract 4 from one side. If I do that to one side, I do it to both sides. Right, here's our little reminder. So minus 4 on one side, we cancel that out. Minus 4 on this side is 6 minus 4 is 2. Now I get a more simplified expression to be 2u equals 2. Now it's multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. Divide by 2. Divide by 2 on one side, divide by 2 on both sides, and you get your simplified variable all by itself. Let's go back to our practice problems or our practice, and I'll go through a number of these with you, and then you can work on this on your own. So here I have 9 equals 2h plus 1. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides to start with, so 1 would cancel out here. I have 9 minus 1 is 8, and then I have 8 equals 2h. If I divide by 2 on both sides, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Next expression, 2 plus 2r equals 10. It might be beneficial to have a piece of paper in front of you to write this out so that you can actually do each of these problems with the two-step method. First thing you need to do is look at the two operations. You got addition and multiplication again, and then work in reverse order. I would subtract 2 from both sides, so 2 minus 2 is going to cancel out, and then minus 2 from 10 is going to be 8. So I get a new expression that says 2r equals 8. I divide by 2 on both sides. 8 divided by 2 is again 4. Here you have 2 plus 3p equals 5. Subtract 2 from both sides. On the left-hand side, the 2's will cancel. On the right-hand side, you'd have 5 minus 2, which is 3. Your new expression is 3p equals 3. So the first step, you subtract. The second step, you're going to divide. Divide by 3. Divide by 3 on both sides. 3 would cancel out here, leaving the p all by itself. 3 divided by 3 is going to give us an answer of 1. 1 equals 2f minus 3. I'm writing it out so I can make sure that I follow each step precisely. Because it says minus 3, I'm doing the inverse operation and working in that reverse order, so I'm going to plus 3 to this side. That'll cancel out. If I add 3 to one side, I got to add 3 to both sides, so I have 1 plus 3 on this side, which would be 4. My new expression looks like this. 4 equals 2f. Now I divide by 2 on both sides. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Another one with subtraction. 2d minus 3 equals 3. It says minus 3, so I'm going to do the inverse operation. I'm going to plus 3 to one side. If I do it to one side, I do it to the other side. So I have now 3 plus 3. 3 plus 3 on this side would give me 6. And now I have 2d equals 6. The second step in my equation is going to be to divide by 2. Divide by 2. D equals 3. You've got now some negatives that are going to show up in your practice. Just because it's negative doesn't really change our overall strategy. We just have to be able to add and subtract with those sign values. So here I've got minus 14. I'm going to add 14 to both sides. I add 14 to the right side, it'll cancel out. I add 14 to the left side. I've got negative 2 plus 14, which is different, subtract. If I have those differences, I'm subtracting the absolute value. So 14 minus 2 is 12. Keep the sign of the larger number, which would be the 14. So you've got positive 12 equals 2r. Now you're going to divide by 2 on both sides. 2 divided by 2 is going to cancel out, give you 1. R is all by itself. 12 divided by 2 is going to give you 6. You might run into some problems with fractions. Remember, when we have fractions, you're going to use the same set of operations, but there might be a way in which you're not going to divide by a fraction, but instead multiply by a reciprocal. Let's take a look at this example. V divided by 2 plus 5 equals 7. First thing I'm going to do is subtract 5 from both sides. Minus 5 on the left will cancel. Minus 5 on the right, I get 7 minus 5 equals 2. My new expression is V divided by 2 equals 2. Now, because it's divided by 2, I want to do the opposite or inverse operation. I'm going to multiply V over 2 by 2, and that'll cancel the 2's. And then if I multiply on one side, the left side, by 2, I should multiply on the right side by 2. Remember, on that right side we had 2, so 2 times 2, V equals 4. Here's another fraction problem. 18 equals b divided by 4 minus negative 15. Now it says I have a minus negative, which I can think about as a positive if I have those two values there. So I'm going to turn that into a positive number, and I'm going to subtract 15 and subtract 15 from both sides. If I subtract 15, I have I have positive 3 equals b divided by 4. I multiply on both sides by 4. I should get 12. Now if I check this, I want to make sure that I've got the right answer. If I've got 12 divided by 4, or 12 over 4, if b equals 12, then 12 divided by 4 is going to give me 3. 3 minus negative 15 would turn into an addition problem. 3 plus 15 would be 18. 18 equals 18. So I know that that answer is right if I go back and check. Next problem here, again, I have another negative that's thrown in. 3n minus negative 1 equals 10. What I like to do is, from the get-go, change this to an addition sign because those two negatives are going to turn into a positive. Once I have it rewritten, so my new expression looks like this. 3n plus 1 equals 10. I would subtract 1 from both sides. 10 minus 1 is 9, and my new expression looks like this. 3n equals 9. Divide by 3, divide by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Jump to the next level just to show you what the most difficult problem is that you're going to run into. Here you again have those double negatives that are showing up. When you have those double negatives, you take those double negatives and turn it into a positive. So my expression looks like this. 44 equals 2s plus 10. I minus 10 on both sides. I would get 34 equals 2s divided by 2, divided by 2. 34 divided by 2 is 17. The only thing more difficult as you're going higher in your SMART score is that you're going to be dealing with bigger numbers and maybe more difficult operations in terms of your division and multiplication. Nothing that you can't handle. So in this case, you've got 14 plus 8y equals 38. First thing you're going to do is subtract 14 from both sides, but working in that reverse order. (38 minus 14 is 24. So my new expression, 8y equals 24. Divide by 8, divide by 8. 24 divided by 8, y equals 3. Here's an example of having to solve with the distributive property before getting into the two-step equation. Anytime you have parentheses, you're going to use the distributive property to multiply by what's on the outside by what's on the inside. So you're going to have to set this problem up before you can use the two-step method. Here you would multiply the 7 times the w. That would give you 7w. And then you would multiply 7 times 8, which would give you 56. So 7w plus 56 equals 91. I can go about solving this by subtracting 56 on both sides. If I have 91 minus 56, I would set that up to subtract. I can't subtract 1 from 6, so I have to borrow from the 9. The 9 turns into an 8. The 1 turns into an 11. 11 minus 6 is going to give me 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. So my new problem looks like this. 7w equals 35. Divide by 7 on both sides. 35 divided by 7w equals 5. Here's an example of separating your order of operations with a fraction bar. Here you've got p minus 37 in the numerator, and you've got 7 in the denominator equaling 6. Here, what you're going to do is try to separate these two problems. Now, in this case, you can't work backwards because the 37 is still part of the overall expression. So in this case, you're going to multiply by 7 first because this symbol of inclusion is kind of like this is in parentheses. You got to do the things outside of that first. So if I multiply by 7 on both sides, that'll cancel the fraction on the left-hand side, and I have 6 times 7. 6 times 7 is 42. So I would have p minus 37 equals 42. I'd add 37 to both sides. 37 and 42, 2 and 7 is 9. 4 and 3 is 7. P equals 79. Another problem with a fraction will be the last one that I do with you today. You've got negative 39 equals W divided by 6 plus negative 46. First, I'm going to add the negative 46 to both sides. When I'm adding that to the right-hand side, it's going to cancel out. To the left-hand side, I have negative 39 plus 46. Take the absolute value and subtract. Different, subtract. So 46 minus 39 is going to give you 7. Keep the sign of the larger number, which is positive. 7 equals W divided by 6. Now, when you have divide by, you're going to then multiply. Multiply by 6 on both sides. You get 6 times 7, which is 42. Hope that helps you take on and solve, practice getting better at solving two-step equations. God's blessings on completing this activity.